Beautiful Sunday morning, nice, warm and beautiful Sunday morning to people, to all of you nice and gentle people. I have been looking at reviewing my contribution in terms of putting any kind of videos or whatever out in the social media space. The fact is, what difference would it make whether or not if I post a video, I get the feeling it's not going to be liked, followed, shared, subscribed, most likely, because the kind of space that we're in, I believe quite possible that if you choose the comedic route or the entertainment route or the personal route, like showing out all your business, your dirty laundry on social media, you more than likely will pick up a following. Or if you do something, some pranks, some things that out of the norm or whatever, I really commend human interest stories and social awareness post and teaching post. Those are the posts that you hardly will likely see gain followings, or you find that things that are in the entertainment sphere and even the educational sphere. But what I found for myself was browsing. I could go anywhere in the world. I could find out what's going on in a certain place. There are things that interest me, things in far off countries, things in highlands, continents, and all of that. So I realized that with social media, I've come this kind of interconnectiveness of us, that of the whole world, that the world become a global village. So when you look and realize that you just have a neighbor over there in other continents, whether you are from Iceland, anywhere in Europe, anywhere in Australia, anywhere in the Far East, in China, Singapore, anywhere in Pakistan, Soviet Union, just about everywhere in the world, Alaska down to the Arctic region. Once you are out there, you are open to just about the whole world. So irrespective of the fact that you might post a video and it is not viewed, liked, and shared by millions, the fact remains that you are before billions of people. So it doesn't really matter whether anybody's going to like, share, or follow you. You just have to just keep doing your thing, and you keep doing it. What would motivate me to make a post or to post something like this? And I speak it from a Caribbean perspective. I'm from Jamaica. I'm from the Caribbean. And welcome to Ramsey's Reasons. I'm Leon Ramsey by way of introduction. I believe that my passion is of such that I didn't even go ahead. I've made a couple of posts, but I think that they need a bit more editing, a bit more professionalization and all that. But here we go. When I look at Jamaica, where I'm from, and one particular post I've looked at and I've shared it, it's like Jamaica would have been a part of the innovation that created the Industrial Revolution in England in the 17th, 18th centuries. Our foundries on our level of blacksmithing, our level of machine, those basic iron foundry works. I understand, I'm seeing that many of those ideas were pirated from slaves and taken away to England. What I begin to realize that Jamaican would have been involved in so many worldwide inventions. We have invented even pharmaceutical drugs. Because of our research, we have been innovators in so many aspects that influences the world. So I'm saying to myself, if Jamaica have begun to influence the world from the 1700s to now, from slavery until now, why is our country only celebrated for only athletics and music? And if you look at even the support, even why we celebrate those things, the pathway of those people who excelled and practiced, it wasn't easy because the country don't rally behind anything unless it gets worldwide and it is successful. And my problem is, we have become so polarized and political that that our education, our respective governments, the level of education have been relegated behind politics. Education and innovation and knowledge, it trails behind political tribalism. Jamaican people have been what you call seduced by our politicians. So because of that, we have not gotten the benefit of the innovativeness and the innovation of our people. So while we are here comparing ourselves with Singapore, we should have surpassed Singapore already. And I've said to myself, Jamaicans, we go all over the world and we do great things. But what have we done for our country in terms of innovation and inventiveness? Yes, our government like us to be portrayed, and our governments or respective governments like us to be portrayed as on the international scene. But what is happening now? What I have seen happening now, for the past 8 years or so, and I've seen things happening, These things should have been done a long time ago. But because from the 60s, from independence, a culture of dunceness and politician worship have abounded and it has been to our detriment. So when there's a development or whatever to go on, whether in a community or a constituency, because of political tribalism, because of political spite, those things don't happen. All right, let me tell you one thing about political spite again. I remember back into the 80s, a particular market downtown was being renovated and revamped and uplifted. So to this day, the roof that was supposed to be on that market was designated. It is not. It have not been put on that market. And that market, and I want to say that the markets of Jamaica are the micro business commercial centers of the country, are the micro business art of the country. Just about any food provision out there, our markets of Jamaica should have been world class and state of the art. We have an international market. You people never hear the song Carry Me Akigua Linstead Market, one of the most popular markets in the world. Coronation Market, Redemption Ground, Jubilee Market. And that particular market did not get a roof on. And let me tell you, our markets are the prime. They should be one of the nicest places, the nicest amenities. Anybody should be comfortable to go into a market in Jamaica and shop down there. But I'm going to move on. I'm just using that as an example of political tribalism can stifle development. So while we talk about Singapore, we need leaders with that sense of purpose that we are going to innovate and educate. Look at the brain drain. Look at the brain drain. How many teachers, how many engineers, how many medical practitioners leave Jamaica? People might curse and talk about, and let me tell you something. Mutabaruka said it's not good for living in a white man country too long. But because Mutabaruka is a Rasta man, his views was discounted. Because everybody wanted to go foreign. And big up to all of those in the diaspora who don't forget them country. But what I'm saying, that all of those capital, those human capital that went abroad, had our country being at that level of innovation and opportunity, our talent would not have left our country. But because we fail to innovate, how can you have a country If you look at the recent posts that I've made, that did so much in innovation, that did so much in development and research, be lagging behind. We are not a poor country, so what happened? Well, let me tell you something. You see, when education is treated as elitism, you should never youth wanted to study medicine and have to be looking for funds and have to be running down scholarships. Once a youth want to be a medical doctor, he's going to be a medical doctor and engineer. And come back and work for the country. But what? We put it above people's head. The thing about it, education is a democratic right. And let me tell you something. And based on what I've seen going on in the world, because I'm not going to stay on one topic, I'm talking about Jamaica. We should have surpassed Singapore or any other first world country because we had the capital, the land, the labor. But here we are doing now, we're all up in our ears in things that are from abroad. We are foreign focused. That's why we can't look into our own research and development and innovation become up with solution. We should not be calling any company from abroad to build our roads and our bridges, our civil engineer. Why are we having UTech and UE and all of those places, but we have to begin giving contracts to foreigners to come and build our infrastructure because of the failure, the old political, tribalistic. You know, recently I've seen a company, a construction company from foreign in Jamaica doing infrastructural work. And when I look, I see people of different nationalities. While I see those men working, I do not see our Jamaican men putting out the effort on that sites like those men. Why? Is it because of the pay? Because of the lack of motivation? So why, if we can build road and Jamaican men are on the sites, why they couldn't be Jamaican? Because of tribalism. And tribalism begets another set of ism, anti-socialism, social, the whole social infrastructure. So when we look at other countries that have failed, our country with a stronger democracy, we would have been way ahead. But we cannot have a democracy where whenever there's an election, half of the people them don't vote, more than half of the people them don't vote. What kind of democracy is that? Let us begin to look even the international scene. Right away, I am beginning to begin to see democracy as a type of weaponized democracy being used as a tool of capitalism worldwide. Because I want to tell you that communism is weaponized socialism. Because whenever communism was used by a tool, was used as a tool of communism, communism. Communism was used as a tool of socialism. Communism was a weaponized version of socialism that seemed to take away the fundamental rights of citizens and bring it into what you call when the government takes over the whole econ of nationalizing industries and nationalizing people, like what we see going on in some Korean countries. When you look at countries that are called communist countries, they are not socialist countries, because communism is a weaponized version of socialism. It is not the real socialism. So if democracy is being used as a tool, as a weaponized version of capitalism, then that is where you have the fundamental question. We have problems there now. Because you can vote, and when you take a stock what you have voted for, you have voted away your constitutional rights. And as the world moves behind and more, the whole media system and how it is built, it's like you realize that capitalism and sort of these two concepts, the whole media situation is begin to ferment into the people being lackadaisical. When it is being weaponized, people can't stand up for their rights as they ought to be. You notice how difficult it is become for people to be mobilized to stand up for their rights now. When they say get up, stand up for your rights, you notice how quick the people are coming under attack. You see what is happening in the whole world, but stand up we must. So what I'm saying to people, people might not want to view this post as anything, but I'm saying that from the bottom of my heart, that we seem to be going about both things in a way. The lack of education and innovation is to the detriment of our Jamaicans. We should have been far ahead a long time ago. How comes our innovation benefits other countries, but it don't benefit us? And when you begin to ask these harsh questions, you see the bright guys come up with figures. And you see the statistics being trotted out. And you said, based on what? And you said, what evidence do you have? The evidence what I do have, I have seen capital cities being run down when they shouldn't be run down. I have seen infrastructure broken. I have seen social fallout because of policies. I have seen where policies that should benefit the people are not benefiting the people. I have seen programs that should benefit the vast amount of people. When they work, they work. But we need to be more innovative. I realize in organizations, especially in public sector, is that if it doesn't come from the top, whatever policy, there's no input. Something is fixed up and made up and everybody must buy into it. So there's no discussion. There's no standards. The only standards are applied are to the higher ups. But I keep telling people that the lack of education and innovation in any society, both in an innovation of ideas, you don't have to have a PhD to innovate. You don't have to have a master's to be educated. On innovation and education, it is important, and tertiary education is important, and I commend those, but I'm saying that you have to look at what is happening in your brain, that people have informal abilities that can do great things. And I'm saying that when we weaponize democracy to turn it against people, that is so wrong. Then again, let us look at the Caribbean. I see over there in Antigua, where a woman crying for her son, they're not demanding justice for her son that was killed by the police. We have the same problem in Jamaica. All over the Caribbean, the black mothers losing sons and crying out for justice. Yet still there is a lack of cohesiveness in the Caribbean, a lack of unity in CARICOM. How can there be military deployment in the Caribbean and we only reading through it and hardly one leader alone I hear speaking out? One particular leader, and I commend that woman. So many developments. Why are we so disconnected? That is the reason why the Caribbean is lagging. We, these small island says, why you think Haiti is like that? It's because of this unity. Why you think Africa is like that? It's because of this unity, because we have been lackadaisical and have allowed our intellectuality and our ideas and our innovation to be invested in Europe, to be invested in other white man countries. We have carried all our innovation and developed other countries to the detriment of our countries because of our failure. When I read the Sankofa Chronicles and see the plan that was made how to compartmentalize Africa, they you know believe there are plans being made to compartmentalize the Caribbean also. And that is why I look at Jamaica and I say this should be one of the most ordered and respectable states in the world, to the extent of the Caribbean. But what? When you have weaponized, the weaponized version, when capitalism, when democracy is being used as a tool of capitalism, there's going to be underdevelopment. When socialism has been used, when communism has been used as a tool of socialism, problems, there cannot be no unity. So where do we find the middle ground? And that's where the thoughts are. That's where the voice, oh, we built a society of meritocracy, of innovation and education, sustainable development. It's not about getting what I want. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses. It's all about making the world a better place, making your country a better place. So look here, it doesn't really matter who gonna like what I say or how I say it, but it's in my heart. Black innovation. And what benefit did we get? So whatever post I'm going to be making, as soon as the whole thing is arranged, I'm not going to stop knocking that we should have been far ahead. We want to go back to the legalization. I noticed there have been a march about the legalization of a certain spiritual practice. It is my understanding that the laws that were made against the Obeah Act was a suppression, it done in a bid to suppress the slaves from practicing their own traditional way of worship. Because people used to sing, people used to chant, they used to use herbs, there are people they used to read, and people would go to them. The plantation class never liked that. They did not want that assembling. So they made Obeah illegal, and it has been on the books for ages. We must remember that the Black Christian Church nowadays, it came out of the white plantocracy. The Black Christian Church, especially in Jamaica, the ones that are marching and saying no to Obeah and no to this, and I am not a proponent or I'm not advocating any occultic and destructive practices. I am saying that the ancient traditional medical practices and spiritual practices, in a bid to control the black man, it was outlawed. But the Christian church that we have, the Black church, came out of slavery. And the same bush medicine, the same bush doctor, the same bush that we use, that takes care of our illnesses, the same, what you call that, barnyard or whatever. The black church came out of the plantation. So we must not seek to be disingenuous in saying no to a cultural practice that even people in the Christian church that condemns it will sneak away in the night to seek the help of an informal physician. The practice, I remember in the Bible, there was a particular king who outlawed a particular practice based on the instructions his claim from the Bible said from the abundance of witchcraft. Well, we must understand that there is good and there is evil. But when his back was against the wall, he was going back to the same witch to communicate, to find out if he's going to be victorious. The witch or the whoever woman or the medicine woman or whatever, I wouldn't want to say because you remember the Salem witch trials. But the medium or whoever relayed back to him that he was going to lose the battle and lose the life of he and his son. So I tell people that sometimes it's best that you make the Almighty make the decision. Because sometimes the results that you are looking for when you go to a certain place, it probably be to your detriment. I'm not saying that. I believe in the power of herbal medicine and bush. I believe in that. There are some good medication that are growing. Even the pharmaceutical company have to go to plants and roots. The Bible has given us the herbs and the roots for the healing of the nation. So I call on the church and the preachers that while you preach, do not be disingenuous in continuing a practice, or preach against a practice of suppression, and the whole story is not made. We know that there's an active, informal practice. Mayalism, Ubiaism, all sort of practices that are traditional practices, but they are spiritual practices, so we don't go on that ground. What we are saying is that the attempt to legislate it has come across as oppression and suppression, and I believe that the church who would be a part of the liberation of the people, the spiritual liberation, must not just maintain a balance. While I can talk about other people, one of the things I talk about are innovation and our education. Recently, I've seen an impasse between two popular entertainers in the dancehall fraternity, and I've made a post about it. Well, when I made a response, I'm saying that the keys that make up music, nobody invented it. Music is always going to be innovative. There can be no creator. It's only one man created, no one person created, one individual, one being created music, as the Almighty. And if we have found a medium by which many youths can ascribe to that, become a part of our culture, we should look to eliminate. No, that music doesn't belong to us anymore. Reggae music is not unique to Jamaica anymore. Reggae music is worldwide. People in Jamaica, Jamaican musicians, have suppressed and have become like wranglers against each other. I don't say much because the females hardly can get their voices heard. But Jamaican male entertainers have become wranglers or stranglers and are idolizing entertainers over each other, pushing up other entertainers irrespective of the content that they produce. And then they believe that it must be accepted. There are many other types of music people subscribe to. But let me tell you something. Because of this wrangle in Jamaica, the foreigners have taken over reggae music. No wonder you had to watch why a white reggae group collected the reggae Grammy. And you all here, in spite of so many studios and radio stations, are fighting over who created what you call an off-key sounded form of music that found popularity among the inner city and was elevated as a genre in Jamaica because it was popular and because people were gravitating to it. It was an accident music and nobody can lay claim to it. And when I speak this mind, and I say to these practitioners, it's time to get in the studio and make some good music that can meet standards and quality. We do have a good award ceremony. We do have good music hardly coming out of Jamaica. Most of it is rhythm driven, 1,000 artists on a rhythm. If you want a musician to build a rhythm or any innovation or whatever, you have to have bundles of money because these musicians who sometimes are not getting any work anyway are so high and so superstars. That's why we need to bring back that music curriculum back in the schools to capture that essence. Cricket, which was a West Indies, which we dominated, where is it now? But we're running after soccer, after football, trying to make a name on the world stage. Cricket is just as good as football. We need innovation and innovative thinkers. It's not who you like is going to do the things that you like, not who you like. But whatever I say today, I stand on my convictions. I don't have to be like shared, but I'm saying this. Where we are now, we should have been far ahead. I think progressively. I believe that what is it is, whether it's in the justice system, whether the economy, what it is not what it ought to be. Peace is like Sunday morning.